In this video, we are going to give actionable constructive feedback on the most recent basic weapon attack combat update. First off, the combat looks great. The devs are balancing player choice and impactfulness in a thoughtful manner. They are approaching hybrid combat in a new and exciting way. However, before we continue, we need to define what hybrid combat means, what action combat means, and what tab target combat means in the context of Ashes of Creation. At first glance, it looks like the combat update for basic weapon attacks was entirely action combat. Upon closer examination, this is technically not true, but it depends on your definition of these terms. Honestly, it feels like the AOC community is still a bit confused on what hybrid, tab target, and action combat means. And it feels like Steven and the team at Intrepid are using tab target and action combat in ways that aren't entirely consistent. Let me explain. Intrepid clarified after the fact that Steven was swapping in and out of action combat and tab target mode. According to Intrepid, action combat mode is when the camera is fixed behind the target and the basic attack activates with left click. And according to Intrepid, tab target mode is engaged when the camera is zoomed out and the basic attack activates with Q. As you can see, both methods were active in the live stream. Notice the fixed camera and the reticle in this clip, and then the free floating camera with no reticle in this clip. However, both modes are in some sense action combat in that, one, you can swing your basic weapon attack whether or not you have an enemy targeted, and two, you will miss your target if you're facing the wrong way or out of range. When Intrepid says tab target, this does not mean that the basic weapon attack become a tab targeted ability. In this sense, basic weapon attacks are all action combat, regardless of which camera or combat mode you are in. For example, in WoW, the basic weapon attacks are tab targeted, meaning that you cannot swing your sword unless you have an enemy targeted. If you try to do a basic attack and you're out of range or facing the wrong way, the game will tell you in a form of an error message. Or in League of Legends, there are tab targeted abilities that you can only cast if you have an enemy tab targeted. And then there are skill shots or action combat abilities that can be used whenever. For example, Lux's ultimate or Ezra's skill shot. That is why it is a little bit confusing when Intrepid tells us that both action combat and tab target were showcased in this video. Though this is technically true, all the basic attacks were only action combat in the normal sense of the word, but according to Intrepid, both combat methods were shown. This may be different when ranged basic weapon attacks are introduced, but currently all basic weapon attacks are essentially action combat. In fact, even the weapon master class abilities that were shown were all action combat, regardless of the combat mode Steven was in. But in any event, I was super pleased with the action combat direction Intrepid is taking, even if they want to call it tab target. I'm sure the class abilities will play into the different combat modes more than the basic weapon attack. I love the player choice given with the more rooted heavy weapons or the faster player agency of the lighter weapon attacks. It looks awesome, it feels impactful. I can't wait for Alpha 2 so I can play it and test it out. I had high expectations and I was pleasantly surprised how well combat is progressing. I can't wait to see the class kits and the abilities that will be drip fed to us over the coming months. The color saturation and the art style looks amazing. The basic attacks look great. The audio feedback is top notch. I am still hyped for this game. At first glance, it does look like the daggers will be the PvP go-to, as player choice and movement is typically king in PvP, but we'll see. Maybe they need to increase the damage or the range of the heavy weapons so the more blended rooted animations are rewarded with more power, but I'll want to test it out first. I would love Intrepid to continue to lean heavily into action combat, even for the ranged weapon attack, where the benefit of attacking from ranged is offset with the risk of missing the target, depending on your aim. I think this should be true regardless of whether you are in action combat or tab target mode. Of course, I think that there should be some class ranged abilities that lock onto the target, but I think that ranged basic attack should require aim. This is a departure from Alpha 1, so it's likely a pipe dream. However, I am excited to see what Intrepid comes up with. I'm sure I'll be excited with whatever they choose. And that about wraps up this video. I'll see you in the next one. Peace. If you're still here, please consider subscribing, as this will help motivate me to make more videos. My next two video topics that I plan on making are 1. Making quests fun and interesting, and 2. Fixing what I believe to be a major flaw in the PvP flagging system, because defending yourself against an aggressor should not flag you as a combatant, thus preventing the murderous aggressor from getting any corruption. Self-defense does not negate the crime of murder, but that is a different topic for a different video. But if you think that is interesting gameplay to let yourself be killed so that you can punish the aggressor with corruption, then kid, you're high on copium. Peace.